And then I'm going to go do this podcast, and then after that I've got to go and have a meeting, and over lunch. That is my work. And then I thought, what does that really sound like to somebody when you sort of say that's my work? That is what I've created for my work. So I go, I get my hair done, and then I come for a podcast, going to lunch, and then later on I've got another few things that all kind of similar type stuff, which is all, in my opinion, great fun. Stuff that I really,
That's
really
the
enjoy.
important thing. If it's in your opinion, if it's
Yeah.
fun and you love it, great.
Yeah.
In other people's opinion, they don't always buy into it.
Yeah.
But it's whether you care about other opinions.
So, actually, the entrepreneurship, it wasn't something that I planned or that I sort of thought, oh, I really want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It was something that I was told that I was. And I actually had to look into what exactly is that and what does it exactly mean about me as a person. Entrepreneurship's a funny thing. Entrepreneurship doesn't necessarily mean that you're like making loads and loads of money.
Yeah.
It would be not. That's the kind of my main aim.
Everyone thinks that. Though.
Everybody thinks that, like, oh my god, they must be making loads of money. It's like, well, we're all working on that, and it's a constant bit of work that needs to be done. It's constant finding the right angle to be seen or to be recognised in the right field. It's finding your right. So for example, with me, it's with food.
Yeah.
So we can go and do loads of different things, but then if you're known, within the food industry, then really you need to use that area to market yourself within food. The recent award for Entrepreneur of the Year, lucky for me, it was with Dorset Food and Drink Awards.
I saw, and I was going to say, was that always your background, food? It was always
food.
an interest.
So I was born in the Indian food industry.
Yeah.
My parents had a restaurant when I was growing up, and we were always there. From a very young age, I was working in the kitchen. Hold on a minute. That's a bit of a lie. I wasn't exactly working in the kitchen, I was helping.
Okay.
Right, so I was like peeling onions, I was cutting
that's
mushrooms.
working. I mean, one of my first jobs was pot wash in a local pub. We've all done little things like that. So whether it's paid work or whether it's voluntary, I mean, it's
but I think when it's with your family, when you work with your family, it's very, very different.
Yeah.
So we don't regard that as, I wouldn't have regarded that as work.
Okay.
Right, I was very young as well. But it's one of those things with family businesses that you grow up in. Sure. They pick it up without even realising. So all the time that you're hanging around a business, if your parents have a business and you're very young and they have to. We were living in a time when nannies were for more of the sort of really high class, upper rich people type thing. We weren't living a life like that. My parents had a restaurant. They worked very hard. And it wasn't always, we lived upstairs, the restaurant, so we would just come down and harass our parents, me and my brother, and we would be told, like, stop fighting and start helping. So we would end up having to do little jobs here and there, and along that journey, you pick up things that you don't even know you're picking up.
Yeah.
So you become, in your own way, almost an expert, especially if you've been doing it from a young age.
Well, you practice it.
Yeah, and you're around it all the time, so people are talking about things that you hear stuff. You're not with one set of people either, because in a restaurant it's constantly changing. You're always getting new chefs or new waiters or new staff that is coming in, and there's new functions, new things happen. So you're constantly changing, but all the while you're picking it all up.
Yeah.
So the Entrepreneur for the Food and Drink Awards was really, for me, it was really special because. Sure. It was kind of getting recognised in the field that I would like to be recognised in, but at the same time it was through food. So it was, I don't know, somebody nominated me, and it was a really funny way the whole thing happened, because I never really thought I was at a level to put myself in for a prestigious award like that. And I actually, on the same day that I was notified that I had been nominated, I had been onto their website to go and try to nominate myself. I was kind of coming out of my comfort zone. Let me just do it anyway. Sure. And if it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And I went onto this website and it said, oh, it's too late, it's closed. And I thought, oh, okay. So I kind of just left it. And then I had an email notification at the same time, just after I'd come off the page, to say, you've been nominated for Entrepreneur with Dorset Food and Drink Awards. And I was like, oh my God, that is so cool.
I think that's the difference between... My point in the question is that a lot of people right now are chasing the quick fix, chasing the glory, chasing the short term, passion, well, not even passion, chasing that quick fix exactly, and then using the title of the word that we just used, entrepreneur, we're not really knowing and going through the entire experience that you've just described what it is.
Yeah, people are like, God, you've only been doing this for 2 years and you've been recognised. Like,
Yeah.
I was actually been doing it for like
So they
42 years.
They haven't gone through any of that, and to go back to practice is what we've just said. You know, being a practitioner is something I've talked quite a bit about. Whether it's in the fitness industry, is what I was in, or whether it's anything else. It could be art, it could be cooking, it could be whatever. To know anything about what you're doing, you have to practice it. That's genuine logic. You know, you have to practice something to get better at it, and to learn about it, and to have life experience.
It's really interesting what you say. I was invited to the graduation ceremony for Bournemouth University's recent graduation, just a few days ago, last week in fact. And I was invited as a VIP guest, right? So from my point of view, people are like, yeah, and right. But for me, right, to be invited to a graduation ceremony, because I haven't graduated myself.
No, me either. I'm a high school dropout.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And I kind of focused on other things. I was always working, you know, from quite a young age, and I was always helping my family. Yeah, but I've never really been able to commit to education. So when I went to this graduation ceremony, I was sitting there on this front row, my name on the seat, and I thought, how did I do that?
Yeah.
I thought, how did I do this? How did I get in here? And there was a speech by a honorary doctorate. His name was Mr. Larry Hollingworth. And when he spoke, he said there are 3 things that make people go really, really far in life when it comes to education. And the first thing was like the academic side, like education. The second part was research.
Yeah.
And the third part was practice. And those 3 things, I think, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you use that principle in whatever you're doing, you will excel yourself without trying.
Absolutely.
It just comes naturally. Research for me is something, when he said about education, I was like, that's not me. But when he said research, it's funny because I've learned so much about what I'm doing only through trying to be the best at what I'm doing. You start researching stuff. That's stuff you're like sitting there with. If you're going on Google and you're looking stuff up, that is research.
Yeah, I'm so glad you've said that, because I think that's the common misconception right now with what everyone is trying to do. I mean, I got to where, you know, where we're sat here now speaking. You know, I met Kelly, and how did I do that? I typed it into Google. You know, I use this thing called LinkedIn. I use this thing called YouTube. Did I use any of the skills that I've gained from school, going to college and dropping out? No. They've all been gained from life experience, work, soaking up those knowledge from working with other people, different jobs, different areas, different, you know, different failures, accepting those failures that people, from what I'm observing, yeah, it's my generation as well, but they can't accept that, and they're not dealing with it.
Yeah.
And they're going, I want it, but I don't want to have to graft for it.
Yeah.
And they're
So
going,
this is the thing,
I want it, but I don't want to climb up the hill.
Yeah, this is the thing that I think, you know, this is where people say, if you do something that you love, if you take something that you know that you really, really like. I mean, I spent years working in not just in the restaurant, running with my parents, but I used to say, God, I never want to be in the catering business, and I just want to get out of this. And I said to my parents, like, I can't just do this job. I want to get out and do something else. So I used to work in a bank, and I chose a bank to work in that was directly opposite our restaurant.
There we go. A little bit of you was thinking.
Yeah, because I was thinking, because I was, you know, I'm quite passionate about being there for my parents and helping them, because they do, you know, I'm really, really blessed with an amazing family. And I thought it was a bit cruel of me to just kind of like, oh, I'm off, see you later. So I thought if I could do what I want to do, but also still be able to help them, So I chose a bank that was directly opposite our restaurant, and I used to go to this bank early in the morning because we'd have to be there like before 8:30 to get everything open and up and ready for 9 o'clock start. And I would do that, and in my lunch break I would cross the road, hoover the restaurant, set all the tables, put all the lights on and everything, like do all the stuff that needed to be done in my lunch break, right? And my parents used to really like, they didn't expect that I should do that, but they used to really appreciate me doing it.
Yeah.
So I never really wanted my dad to be sort of like struggling hoovering up a restaurant. He's like, you know, it's a bit of an older man, poor guy, right? And I used to think, no, I'll do it. So I used to go in and do that, and my mum would know that I would be coming for lunch. So she would already have cooked my lunch. So I would have a cooked lunch every single day.
And you never wanted anything in return. You never wanted anything more.
I wanted lunch.
You wanted, I wanted
Just
lunch.
wanted mum's lunch.
Exactly. That's the point.
But I would come over and I'd finish all my stuff. I'd just quickly stuff this food down, and then I'd go back to work again.
Yeah.
And then I'd finish at the bank at 5 o'clock, and at 5:30 we'd have the restaurant. I'd be in the restaurant, preparing for evening work, which we never finished until about 11:30 at night. And then I would do that every single day.
I think it's the point that someone said to me about the ability to sacrifice for what you want, you know, and it's been on my mind a lot recently. You know, I think a lot of people, I say people, you know, our society right now, very quick to complain, aren't we? We're very quick to complain about what we don't have, what we want, what we need. You know, we don't have enough money. We want to go on holiday. We want this. We want that.
That was me like yesterday. I want to go on holiday.
But it's all fine. You know, it's fine. It's fine to do that. But sometimes there are like, you know, certainly in the entrepreneurship world, and certainly the people that I encounter, you know, it's like, I don't have enough money to fund this. I don't have enough money to get my Facebook ads going. Fine. Okay. Sell your TV.
I've never done Facebook ads.
Cancel your Netflix membership.
Yeah.
You know. Stop watching.
I've never done Facebook ads.
The Kardashians, you know, just.
Yeah. You see, there is a little bit in what you're saying, right? There is a lot of truth, but there are small things that can be very inspiring for somebody. So Kardashians.
Well, it's a balance, isn't it?
Yeah. Kardashians are like, I always find it very inspiring that these people were just talking about their everyday life. And I said to my daughter, look, it's not really like that. You know, a lot of this is a lot of editing, and it's not really like what you think it's like. And she's like, no, it is. This is how they live. And I thought, no, darling, it isn't. You would never put everything out for everybody. You know,
it's the same with my content. I don't put all of my personal stuff out. I'm in control of what I put out.
I mean, I can understand that, like, when we talk about people like Kardashians, like, she's like, do you know how much she earns? And this is very inspiring for young people. And because, you know, people who are of that era, like, I would say they believe that if it's possible for somebody like them to start talking about their life, then perhaps there's an opportunity for these new generation.
Well, they also had parents that made $1 million business.
You see, they didn't see the backstory. they missed that bit.
And they hopped on that.
Yeah. So these guys just monetized what they could in a very clever way. But behind all of it, the younger sort of generation, if they believe, because they see this, they see young people are suddenly an influencer. Yeah. Somebody's suddenly doing this, and they're making 6 figures in a month. You know, and like, well, I could do that. There is an element of beauty in that, because if people think they can, they probably can.
Oh, I love the ambition. Yeah. I that's what made me fall in love with the whole ambitious side of it. But I think there's an unrealistic side to it, and I think, you know, certainly I had a wake up call. I'm a byproduct of my 2 parents. You know, my mum was a single nurse, and my father, you know, sold cars since he was 20. You know, came out of the army, and he's been working ever since. You know, and now he's a successful financial advisor, and he's been my, you know, rock ever since. You know, so both of them have helped me direct, you know, mentally to who I am now. You know, and that self-awareness from both parents, you know, my mother to you know, to kind, gentle-hearted, to my dad to realistic, real talk every now and then, to kind of, you know, yes, you can do that, but also don't be an idiot.
Take this into account.
Yeah, take that into account.
Yeah.
You have to be sensible. You know, don't waste your money. You know, yes, you can live there, but don't. You know,
don't do this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think I like that everyone thinks they can go and start up a business, go traveling. You know, want to start that. That's great, but you're not gonna be a millionaire in a year.
Well,
you know, you're not gonna
be, and if you see, the thing is that internet, the thing that really makes me concerned about internet is people and the TV things where you see these people who are earning huge bucks by being influencers and that kind of thing. But then you think, imagine if like all of a sudden they just took Instagram away.
Well, they're starting to, aren't they?
Or if they just
they're starting to hide the likes. They're starting to hide the,
what if they just
the
took
money
it,
side
What if they
of
just
it?
took it away? What if it just came completely off? Like, no, you're not on there anymore. So somebody who's built up this whole few years of like actually becoming an influencer and being recognised and being paid and that kind of thing, all of a sudden that would be taken away. So there is risk in everything, whether it's a high street business, whether it's working from home, whatever it is, there is risk in everything. You know, and we need to just be prepared for those risks. Which is why I think those 3 words are what you come back to. So you come back to education, research, and practice. So because that means even if they took that away, you could still get up and do whatever you're doing on another platform or in another way, or use your brain and find an angle that could be completely different.
Interesting you touch on that. I think even the education, the way we educate ourselves now is changing.
Yeah.
You know, but massively.
I'm talking about education a lot because after I went to this graduation, I was very inspired by seeing.
I imagine, yeah.
I was like, I was kind of inspired by myself for getting in there, and I thought, I got into a graduation without graduating. That's cool.
That's huge.
And on a VIP seat with my name on it, I was like, oh, that's really cool. But I'm watching all these people, and I think, I am a true believer that everything that happens for a reason. Yeah. Everything. And I was sitting there thinking, why am I here? Why are they called? What am I doing here? What's the purpose for me? And I'm watching these people going across the stage, picking up their awards, certificates, and shaking the hand. And I was thinking, I wonder what they're really feeling at this time. Like, they spent these amount of time studying, and they're getting their reward for it now. And their families are there, and people are really celebrating. I mean, I wonder what that feels like, because when you haven't done it, you do wonder, like, what is that really? What's it? And so I'm watching these people, and I was like, I want that. I want to do that. I want to go back to study.
I don't think I've ever wanted that. I mean, I remember when I was at my one of my ex-girlfriend's graduations at Bournemouth, and I think I don't think I had the same feeling. I don't think I've ever wanted that. I value rewards in a different way. I don't think I've ever valued that same feeling that you've just described in a way of education. Because I've got satisfaction and achievements in so many other ways, whether it was gaining my personal training diploma or achieving success in rugby or so many other things. Getting a piece of paper given to me by someone who has got another piece of paper doesn't mean that it's any less form of intelligence or any less qualified. And I know people give me a lot of stick for this online, and people give me stick for it all my life. But I don't have that feeling to go out and spend 4 years. I'm doing a degree now, but it's just.
My belief is that those people who have taken the time, to read the books and go through that. I mean, I've spent my life telling my children, like, you really don't need to study. You can do whatever you want without studying. And then I went back to them after that graduation and was like, I want to go back to uni. And they were like, what? And I was like, I actually feel that I could do this. And I think I could commit myself for 1 year and walk away with this certificate. Now, people would say, why would you need to do that? Because I would be interested in doing entrepreneurship. And people are like, but you're already there. It's like, yes, but I will never feel. People will say, well, you're already there.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's in everybody else's eyes. But for this, it would make me feel that way.
There we go. It comes back to, and I think it comes back to full circle about everything we've talked about. I think happiness. People should be doing entrepreneurship. People should be starting up businesses. People should be going into jobs, whether it's an office job, whether it's an internship, or starting a university course, and we should really be going back to school. You know, I think back to when I was at school, I probably made all the wrong decisions because I wasn't properly in control of what I was choosing. And you know, if you want to choose a degree because you are 100% happy with it, and we're not really helping people make those decisions right.
So, well, for me, I have a huge respect for those people who have, I mean, some of the, when you read about lecturers, senior lecturers, the amount of time and effort and years of studying and stuff that they've put in, and they've come up with their research, because these are the three key things, remember, those three words that I said. And, you know, they've done their research, they've done their education, and they are qualified. That means, yes, you know, I do think, well, you're great in university. If we took you out of that and put you in business, would you actually survive? But you see, because I feel that I am doing the business, I feel like that would be no sweat. So I feel like it's something that's really achievable for me, and I would like to have that behind me. So it's something that I'm looking into at the moment. And I've spoken to a few different people. It's very interesting because I spend my life telling people, like, you really don't need to study. Like, and then suddenly I'm like, oh, I want to go back to uni. After that graduation, it's really sort of woken something up inside me. But
so do you think you will?
Yeah, I think I will. Because I would like to be able to
just have that.
To have it. You know, like I say, we don't know what the future holds with TV or the internet, or we don't know. Like, internet came out of nowhere.
Yeah. You
know, all of a sudden there was this thing called this, you know, World Wide Web, and this other stuff just came off the back of it. We'd never heard of that. We didn't see that coming. We were at school. I mean, I don't know how old you are. But,
26.
Yeah, so you're just a baby. It's like,
I know.
You're just a little baby. But for me, I'm 42.
Yeah.
And when we were at school, I remember when computers came out and they were talking about programming, and I had no idea what they were on about. It was already completely out of my brain span to understand how computers work, or why would you want to know how to program it? Who cares? It was never in my interest at all. And then all of a sudden this other stuff comes up. And all of those things that have come up, I'll be honest with you, I've never had sort of training or anything like that on it. It's just simply by playing about with it.
Well, that's what's considered. That's why I mentioned education has changed now, I think.
Yeah.
And that's why I mentioned I get a lot of stick for it, especially my parents. It's a conflict issue because the different generation, they can still consider, you know, college, if you're American, or, you know, high school, whatever, you know, they consider that to be valid, you know, whereas your LinkedIn profile now is considered to be what's looked at.
Yeah, and it's almost like a CV.
It is, and that is what's changing. And
your connections, all the, you know, the articles that you're putting
what we're doing now, you know, the content that we're creating, the video, the audio, that is considered a skill, and that will be considered what people will look at and go, I want to work with you.
Yeah.
And that's how crazy the internet has made things.
Yeah.
And that is like,
it is mind blowing, absolutely. So other than, like, when you're doing these podcasts and stuff, what are you doing?
Making content all the time and talking to people like you.
So you're doing, like, YouTube?
I was a personal trainer about 18 months to 2 years before this.
Yeah.
And I realised that while working 80 hours in a gym, trying to sell myself, because that's what you do. You're there all the time, and you're killing yourself. I realised that most people just went home and watched the video on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so I started bringing my camera to work. So I started filming my circuit sessions, so I started filming me at work, so I started...
That's really putting yourself out of a comfort zone, though, because even I
got shit.
Yeah.
People did not like it.
Oh, why?
Because it's different, because people don't like change. That's why people don't like the VAR in football now. That's why people don't like technology. That's why people never like change. Technology always wins.
For somebody who's doing personal training, teaching people how to lose weight and to keep fit and everything else, and you're showing people, and even though you're showing people in exactly the same way, but you're just speaking to a camera, rather than to a person.
Yeah, but and you look at how well the body coach is doing now on YouTube. He's he had the same concept as me. It's just he looks insanely good with a top off. So it's
Well, we don't know that. Better take your top off.
well, it's I just had the same idea that everyone else had about 2 years early, and I started vlogging while I was at the gym, and realized that I didn't really want to do that job. I wanted to do this.
It's much more fun. It's way more fun doing vlogging and vlogging.
Take the step to quit being paid and think, right, this is scary because I'm giving up paid work, and go freelance. And it is scary because some months you eat tuna out of a can and some months you have to think, right, who am I going to talk to, what am I going to do, and you have to, that is real life entrepreneurship. That's why I started the conversation with you about entrepreneurship, because all of these, and it is my generation.
So when we're talking about me, like you said I'm an entrepreneur, so if you've come out of that, what you're doing, and you set up that, and then you're like, well, sometimes we eat like this, and sometimes we have, we do these other things. All of the podcasts and all of the things you're doing, the YouTube and everything else, like you've obviously learned a skill there on how to monetize it for yourself.
Well, it's getting there. I mean, I'm not naive enough to say that it's there already, because that would mean that I would be a hypocrite in one of the people that I'm talking about at the start of the show. I'm 1-2 years in. I'm nowhere near where I'd want to be, and the clever thing is, I don't think you should ever be where you want to be, because I like the process of making content every day. I like the process of doing what we're doing now.
Yeah.
So
I love it as well. I really enjoy this. Even like when you asked me to come over and do this, I was like, yeah. And then you, I know you interacted, and you probably thought she's not really saying much, or she's not really.
No.
Because I was like, because it's like we're just going to talk.
Even when I'm 40 and I probably haven't, reached what people expected me to reach, or my, and it goes deep into my parents and what they expected me to reach, or whatever, and all that kind of stuff, I would be like, well, I'm still happy, and I think that's the important thing.
What was their expectations, and what did they want from you?
My mum wanted me to be a nurse, and my dad just wanted me to be financially independent.
Yeah.
So I think that weighed heavily on me.
It's one of the things I think that parents just do without realising they do that. It's not that they sit there and think, oh, I really want to confuse my kid or make them feel like as though they're under
deep depression in our society. Our kids are being, I'm seeing a lot of, with new apps like TikTok and other things, younger kids, younger than me, they're expressing their depression at their parents, because they're not realizing it, but they're controlling them, whether they're paying for their flat or their car, or even if their kids have moved back into their parents' house, but they still have their car on finance, and they're doing all the things, but they think they're happy, but they're not.
Yeah.
And
there is a real issue in our society where money is concerned, and I know it's always probably been there, but in terms of the expectation of how people are supposed to live right now, because if you rent a place and the amount you're going to pay renting, you might as well buy your own. But to buy your own, you need like a slick, clean credit status, which is pretty hard to do right now, because everything is linked with credit. So if you've got a phone bill,
would it be easier to rent with? But people don't want to rent, because if you rent, you have to rent in a crap hole.
A business person will never ever tell you to rent. Yeah. A business, you would be wrong to rent. You can't grow from renting. And at the same time, how do you buy without having a huge deposit, or and being absolutely, really crystal clear with your finances, because everything is linked with credit scoring now. We've got people are like, it's so easy to get a credit card from the bank. It's very easy to go and get finance, like to get a mobile phone.
Problem. It's so easy that people do it rather than just.
But then they damage at the same time. They damage their credit, and then they think, oh, I need to do this, and then their interest is higher, and
because they're spending money on dumb shit that they don't need.
And what do you consider to be?
The latest clothes, the latest shoes, the latest fashions, the latest football shirt of the person that they like. They're spending money on stuff.
That's always been a thing though, hasn't it?
It doesn't have to be.
But it's always been a thing.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's the problem. If they stop buying money on dumb shit that they don't want, I haven't bought new clothes in like 4 years.
Okay, but people will wear something that they like. They personally, I totally agree with you, by the way. But people will wear something that they really like, or something that they look up to, or they aspire to be. So if, for example, I was walking out down the road in 5 years' time, and I see somebody with your podcast on there, yeah, that would be cool, wouldn't it? See, we're like cool if it's about us.
I would respect that person more if that person created his own podcast than bought my shit.
Really?
Yeah.
I'd be like, no, wear my stuff.
Yeah, but then I'm a hypocrite, because then I'm selling out and I'm going, I'm not doing any of this stuff for the money.
But you know what? It's about being really, really honest and true to yourself. And I think all of us have a little bit of hypocrisy in us. Some of us have a lot.
Some of us do. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I say things and I think maybe I'm a bit of a hypocrite. And that's all fine. You know, that is okay, because we are. Everything right now is acceptable. It's okay to be a bit.
That's the problem. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah, there is no right and wrong, in that sense. But
that's the great thing about the internet. That's the great thing about having a YouTube channel, is there's a freedom to it.
Yeah. So with all of your videos, you feel that you're completely honest and true to yourself.
I think the nice thing about first of all, personal branding, right? And that is where I started. I started with personal branding because at the end, when it all fucks up, right? And I mean, end of the world shit. I mean, and economy, all of that stuff.
We like to swear on this.
yeah. That's the internet, right? That's my personality as well. So you have to kind of accept that.
Okay.
When it all goes down, the one thing that will remain is, chains. So BBC. Personal branding, So creating a brand for yourself is the one thing that you can do. And that's what I'm trying to do, because that's why I get frustrated with my father and, people who are trying to work in companies and office jobs, because all of those kind of things will be gone. The thing that you have financially, the money that you have, all of that stuff, the materialistic possessions, it won't matter. The brand that you created, the thing online, that phone over there will be worth 10 times more when it's all. Because the video that I posted on YouTube 4 years ago will still be watchable, or will still be watchable when I'm dead. Think about that. And people can watch it when I'm 80 years old and got dementia. Yeah. And we'll have a good laugh about it. Yeah. That's what I'm creating. So whether it makes loads of money or not, I can sit and watch it with all my little grandkids and then go, oh, you were funny, weren't you? So it's creating something that is lasting forever. You got to think about that kind of, that's all I think about. Just creating more and more and more so people can go. And then whether one video gets thousands or one video gets one, it's just volume. Yeah.
So what, for you, is it, because everybody's got an end aim. So this is part of your end aim, because this isn't like, oh yeah, I want to do that and that, I've done it. Your thing is you've got obviously somewhere that you're heading to, with definitely your mindset. We all do, yeah, I definitely do.
I don't like to think of an end game, because an end game means that it's going to end.
Not an end game, but I guess all of this you're doing for a reason.
Happiness.
Okay.
It makes me happy.
But in terms of, so you want to build up this content, and then.
So let me explain. So.
Do you feel like you're being interviewed?
No. I get this every day, because every person that I interact with, I put it on LinkedIn the other day. The biggest objection I have is people think I'm trying to sell them something.
Yeah.
Because 90% of people nowadays, they start up a business.
I don't think you're selling me anything.
And then I put a post on Instagram yesterday about regret, and I think that is, you asked about, what is my kind of objective in how I approach my business and how I approach what I do here. You know, whether it's the vlogs, the podcast, the YouTube, and I think, you know, there is no real end game. There is no real 5-year plan, because I've been with people, I've worked with people who've had a 5-year plan, and I think living that way only hamstrings you. You know, I think I've spent time with elderly people, and I think they're the best people to spend time with, because
experience, knowledge,
yeah,
understanding.
They will tell you stories, and they are the best people to hang around with. And I'll tell you, nobody dies old on their deathbed with, you know, thinking, oh, I played it safe my whole life. You know, I really had a really good, safe life. You know, they die with regret, thinking what I didn't do. And I know that's a bit morbid, and people might think, oh fuck, he's, you know, bringing it all down. But they do. You know, they think about, oh, I wish I'd spent time with my family. I wish I did that. I wish I'd gone to, you know, Rome. I wish I'd, you know, traveled around the world, or I wish I'd whatever. You know, they always think about that.
And think about what they haven't.
And right now, this time, with the internet, with our phones, and how powerful they are, and what we can do, and all it takes is like a 30-second tweet, or, you know, an Instagram post, or what we're doing right now with the podcast.
Yeah.
How easy was that? How did I get in contact with you? I'd message you on LinkedIn, didn't I?
It was LinkedIn, yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. You said, can you do this? And I was like, yeah.
I just said, hey, how are you doing? Let's do this. And you were like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I asked for it. I didn't, you know, go for an interview. I didn't, you know, kill myself going job to job, office to office. I just went.
Very easy, yeah.
I just asked for it, and so many people
scared of
asking for what they want.
I mean, I do this thing where I teach people how to win awards, like for their business, and I won a few awards in the last 2 years, and it kind of inspired me to have other people asking, like, how do you do this? And so I told a lot of people, like, this is what I did, and this is how you do it. This is how I do it. Doesn't mean you're going to win, but this is what I do. And, you know, that has proved very successful. But along the way, it's very interesting in some of the conversations I have with people. People just think that they're not good enough, right?
Insecurity going back to it.
They've got their own sort of insecurities. They think, I'm not really good enough, so I don't really want to put myself forward, because I might get through to the first stage, but inevitably I'm not going to win. Yeah. Right? So they really believe they are not going to win. They want to win an award. Yeah. But they're like, I'm not going to win, so I don't really want to go through. It's not worth the hassle. It's not worth it, because I'm going to go through and then I'm like going to look stupid because I'm not going to win. It's like, it doesn't really work like that. If you put yourself up for an award, right, when it comes to actually being present, because they need to know if you're going to be attending. Yeah. If you turn around and you say, well, I'm not coming, and you don't, no one's going to say, like, why aren't you coming? If you just say, well, I can't attend, people literally just tick you off. They're not going to give you an award. They're not going to call out somebody's name who hasn't been bothered to be present. Right, so you're already cutting yourself out by like 50% right there of being in the game. And then, you know what, they also take it so seriously. Like, oh my God, like if I don't win, what's going to happen? Like, your business isn't going to fail. Like, nothing's going to happen. If you don't win, you don't win. It's fine.
I think you get hit the nail on the head. It's being in the game, and it's that. We go back to it, what we said earlier. It's accepting failure, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, you know.
So what? You know. So what?
But the thing is, they're almost accepting failure before like anything's even happened, and it's like they're not prepared to win. It's not about accepting failure. It's more like we are not prepared to put ourselves in that to win, because they're more happy to turn around and say, I'd rather just lose. You know, I'd rather just lose quietly in the back.
Something I'm very hot on right now is what you've just talked about, and I'm loving it, and I'm very happy we talked about it, is vulnerability. Yeah. You know, because I don't see it I don't see a lot of it. I don't see and I get so much shit from people, certainly people who consume my content, because it's largely my generation. Yeah. I'm almost like an enigma. And a paradox, because certainly someone who is part of my generation, to be who I am and how I am and coming out talking this way, people are like, how do you know? You know, what are you doing? And
who are you? Yeah.
Who are you?
Yeah.
And a large percentage of my generation, they're not letting themselves be vulnerable. I was made vulnerable because of life experience, things that I went through that I can't help.
Yeah.
But people aren't letting themselves be vulnerable because they're not willing to take that step. They're not willing to.
It's the world over. It's literally the world over. What you're saying, and people don't want to. Their own vulnerabilities and misconceptions. They feel that they're not going. They won't progress further. Or people who I know who've been in doing what I'm doing for years, but I know people have come to me and said like I wouldn't. Even I'll give you an example. Right, my dad. I said to we go out to restaurants, we see they've got awards plastered on their wall, for example, loads of them. And I said to my dad one day, like, you've been in this restaurant, the first Indian restaurant in Bridport, and you haven't got a single award. Why is that? And he's like, I don't know how to fill a form in. I'm not joking. That was his response. And I thought, are you kidding me? And he's like, no, he's never put himself forward because he thought of things like, oh, I don't really know how to fill that form in. He's not a form person, I can tell you that. So normally I do all the finals. So
he might be scared of it not coming back or not getting the award.
I think he was just like, he doesn't know how to do this. And I was like, okay, that's the weirdest reason to not put yourself forward, but did you not think of maybe trying to get it and then maybe seeing if you could fit in? But it's just accepting that, no, I don't have one and I never will. It's that accepting that I'm okay with that, not ever having it. Why? Why are you okay with that?
And then it goes back to just now what you said, asking the question why. I think we're quite similar in that way, you and I, because we see the behaviour. You've seen the behaviour, I've seen the behaviour, but then it's whether you're at a restaurant or whether you're at Bournemouth University or whatever, and in my experience, it's then having the ability to ask the question why.
Yeah.
Because you see the behaviour, and then a lot of people just walk away. A lot of people just walk away and go, okay. But then whether it's in the car on the way home or by yourself or actually, I a lot of time do quite abruptly. I actually ask them face to face.
Yeah.
Whether it's on the phone or in chats or actually on my one-to-one coffees, what they're paying me for, I will ask them. And I've lost a lot of friends because of that. I've lost a lot of, I have.
Because you're being completely honest.
But that's part of my package. That's what I do. If people don't want to buy into what I'm doing, then I've accepted that my part of my life now, I'm going to lose a different part of what I was before because that was just that was the, different side of me. If you don't want to accept the reality and the truths, then you're going to have to do that without me.
Yeah.
And I think not everyone's willing to do that.
We find, like you say, about people and the misconceptions and about them and the vulnerability, like you say, and people, I mean, there's a lot of age difference between yourself and myself, and from my experience of seeing people and sort of vulnerability, it's very interesting how it's portrayed. People who might feel that, for example, if you were to ask them to come on, they might start questioning loads of things like, well, what are you going to talk about, or why are you talking about me, or where is this leading to, and what's going to happen at the end? And
from me,
a lot of people might question a lot of things, and it not necessarily just if it's you, but if anybody's like, why do you want to do that, and where is it going, and what's going to happen after, and how is it going to portray me, how am I going to look? But I mean, like, to be honest, like, who cares? Just go and do it, and we'll see what happens after, and we'll see. It might be really great, it might be good, or it might just be like normal.
And it's great that you've come in with that open mindset. I think I grew up when I first moved to Bournemouth. I moved to Bournemouth at the age of 17, 18, and I first moved into a house share with 3 housemates, and they were all older than me, so they were all mid-30s, one was 29. Yeah. So I was like, what is this? I was a teenager.
You felt like a kid.
I was a baby, and they were like adults working.
Yeah.
And that was my first taste of rent. work, real life.
Yeah.
So when I'm talking about this, and what I talk about on my videos, podcasts, and what I talk about on my, whether it's an Instagram post or things like that, why people get so aggravated about, what I preach is because when I moved to Bournemouth, they were the ones educating me.
Yeah.
And they don't get the credit that they deserve because they're off doing their thing now.
Yeah.
I owe them a lot now.
You can say thank you now.
I say thank you. I probably don't say thank you enough. And some of them don't keep in contact with me now because they're off doing their own thing, they're living their life, because they're the ones who have educated me. They gave me the life experience, and it seems like ages ago now, but they're the ones who are like, right, this is what you do.
Yeah.
That's how you use a dishwasher. It was so messed up. It was amazing, but it was real.
So where did you move from?
Wiltshire.
Okay.
Yeah, real country boy. So.
Not that far though.
No. But it was just, this is.
And you came down here to study, or?
No.
Oh no, you
said just.
Yeah.
You
just
gotta,
to go for it.
You got to start, paying, working. So. That's
And that's what you did.
That's what I did.
Brilliant. So what was your first sort of job?
My first job was, because as you know, no qualifications, no uni or whatever. My first job was door-to-door sales. So I worked in sales for a long time before I went into the fitness industry, which is why probably I do so much of this. It was door-to-door sales in Southampton. So home installation.
That's what that's quite something.
Yeah, so I was selling home installation to people who didn't want it from 9 a.m. till 5:30, and we would drive from Bournemouth to Eastleigh, and then we would if you knocked on a door, that was pretty average, but if you got in a house, that was good, because if you got in, then you knew you had a sale.
Yeah.
And then that was a £500 commission. So that taught me how to sell, and then I went from sale to sale job for years and months before I got my level 3 personal training, and then I stayed in the personal training industry.
So out of those times when you were going door-to-door salesmaning, what was the biggest commission that you had? Don't say £500.
No. 2,500.
Oh, that's pretty good.
But
so you started to get. Did you ever feel like you were on a roll with it?
Oh,
you used to feel like, I'm really on a roll with this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to look back at that time, because I've worked in call centers and other sales jobs, and I was a money-hungry little prick.
You were living life, and you needed the money to pay for your rent and everything else.
And that time compared with the life experience to where I am now, I learned how to sell, but I also learned how to listen, and I learned that money is not happiness, because you can earn all the money in the world. So I've had money, but I've also not had money, and the ability to sell is a very key thing, and I'm glad I have it, but I'm a lot happier now doing something that I'm passionate about, but not necessarily having all the money.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I went through all of those selling experiences.
Yeah.
And I see all the kids now, and I still walk past all the old jobs that I had, flashing them money, with all the watches, all the fancy cars, and I'm like, yeah, fine, I work there too. But I wouldn't go back there and, do all the same stuff again, because...
So we've only met today and we've had these sort of conversations, but I can kind of figure you out from what my concept of you is, and you don't like people who waste money, and you've got to think.
It's not about wasting it. It's
no,
just,
but you don't like. But I mean, you would see that as almost like you could have done something better with that money, kind of thing, and you're quite charitable from what I can tell. So
with my time.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any money to give.
No, but charity comes.
I like to give more than I take.
Charity comes in all forms. But so for you, what is sort of like something that you really would like to be a part of or to do?
Mental health is a big thing. I've suffered with epilepsy since I was a child.
Yeah.
So I think if I could have the awareness and following and support with other people to do that, then that would be huge. But,
so do you get involved in any of those kind of charity type things?
Online, yes. There's a few people that I'm talking to in a small group.
Yeah.
You know, on Twitter and Instagram and things like that. That we've done a few videos and we've done a few very small, but it's not nothing that I would want to do.
There are so many groups out there that are doing things, but I recently did some.
It's not talked about. You know, things like
mental health is so big.
Mental health, yes. Yeah. Epilepsy, no.
Yeah.
Epilepsy still gets laughed at on a train station when people have seizure. You know, people still get robbed when they have seizure in London. Yeah, it's when I say I have epilepsy, people don't know what to do. They get fronted up. It's people really still don't know a lot about it.
But then if you feel, I mean, do you really feel like people are not aware enough about epilepsy?
No, not at all.
And do you feel that there's not enough out there to tell them? So then why aren't you doing it?
Because it took me myself a long time to accept it.
Yeah.
But
then you're doing something that can raise awareness on so many things. It would be perfect to start something.
It took me 25 years to make 2 videos on my own YouTube channel, which I have done.
Yeah.
So it will come in time. You know, so
the more people that you speak to in different groups, not necessarily because if there aren't that many about, you know, talking about epilepsy and the effects and how to deal with it and how to kind of overcome it.
There are a lot, I think.
But in terms of other things, you can go and have a look at the stuff they're doing and see what you could do in terms of angling it for yourself. Because imagine setting up something like that and what that feeling is like. Once you create something like that.
Well, I go back to the main principle we talked about earlier, volume and content. I think, you know, the reaction of maybe today's podcast might be huge. And if I did one of those just talking about mental health and epilepsy, it would be different.
When we talk about epilepsy, right, you see, you are right. Not many people, I mean, I know about a lot of things, I think, quite a lot sometimes. If you ask me about children, if you ask me about children, I'm pretty good. I've got 4 children, so I always feel like I know more than the doctor when I go in. And you've got quite a young doctor. I just think you just don't know. I could tell you exactly what's wrong with my kid because I've been there.
Yeah.
And I've done it enough times, so I know.
Just
and
like
I go in and I just go in and I almost tell I'm not talking about if any doctors listening to this, like, I'm not putting you down, but some of the younger doctors who've come in, I think, oh, for God's sake, that you really need to do some more homework.
No, it's preaching to the choir.
But, if you said to me, well, if I'm asking myself now, what would be some of the symptoms of epilepsy? The only one I can think of is the flashing lights.
And that's what everyone jumps to.
Yeah.
And it's far bigger than that. Well, I'm not. So that's called photosensitive.
Yeah.
And I'm not photosensitive.
Okay.
And that's very old-fashioned. Well,
that's an old-fashioned concept because that's all we know.
It's not. I wouldn't say old. Maybe it is old-fashioned, but a lot of people do suffer with it. But there are so many people, thousands, who have epilepsy and are talking about it now on social media that don't suffer from photosensitivity, and they have seizures every day, but they have small seizures. So it might just be a twitch. You might just see something, or a flinch, and that might be a temporary one. And mine are caused by anxiety and stress. So
what would happen to you if you're stressed?
Well, I might have a small one, or I might have a full grand mal. But if I control my stress levels, I might not have one for a very long time.
Okay, but when you don't control your stress levels, what will actually happen to you?
Then I'll have a seizure.
Like just anywhere, like just all of a sudden. Yeah.
But it mostly happens at night time. People are very different.
Yeah.
That's what freaks people out about epilepsy is that it occurs in the brain, and we
so is it like a psychological?
No, it's a neurological.
No, it's neurological. Okay. See, I don't even know that.
And people, we don't know enough about the brain as it is. That's why all this area about the brain, and not just epilepsy, but mental health things, and it's all kicking off right now. Everyone loves talking about the brain. Psychological stuff is getting more and more interesting. Everyone's learning about it. I'm studying psychology. Everyone wants to know more because for the last 20, 30, 40 years, we really haven't known a lot. And especially in epilepsy, I mean, even in America, they still treat it with electric shocks. Yeah. So.
Isn't that defeating the object?
Well, they treat it with. So, so it's very.
Does it make you get nervous or anxious thinking about it?
No, because believe me, as someone who has had it for a long time and someone who knows other people who have had it worse than me, it's a mental game. I've played rugby with it all my life. So, and I know other rugby players who have had it as part of concussion as well, because obviously, and that's an area that I would want to go into because I would want to use sport as my area because there's a good rugby friend of mine, Dan Barty, who developed epilepsy as part of concussion.
Oh.
Because he didn't have it before and he had it as part of an injury, and then now he has it. And it's the same with a lot of NFL players. They develop concussion and then epilepsy roots as part of that, and that's where I would want to go down as a route because I played rugby all my life. Luckily, I had no other injuries other than my body. My body's like the body of a 50-year-old. But my epilepsy, lucky enough, I stayed clear. But I still managed to play at rugby for a long amount of time. So, unfortunately, there are a lot of people that didn't end up so fortunate. So, it's it's a big area.
Yeah, but if there isn't enough awareness out there, then
you could say that about a lot of things.
Yeah, but I mean, whenever I say something, I'm always thinking about what are my thoughts on it. What do I know about it? When we talk about mental health, I do feel like I know quite a bit about mental health because it's always in your face right now, everywhere.
I think that's also the problem.
Yeah.
I am getting to a stage now where I think what I want to do is and I go back to what we were talking about, staying in our lane, right? So we talked about it with cooking and diversity, and so I never post a post before I know I'm 100% okay with it. I'm spontaneous as well sometimes, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't post a post about mental health unless I've actually gone through it, or unless I actually know someone who's gone through it. And this is the big thing with mental health right now, and it was the same with it's the same with anything, any trend, right? Politics, football, sport, whatever, anything that's big right now and trending, everyone has to hop on it like a bandwagon.
Yeah.
Like a train that's driving through our country, right? And everyone has an opinion. And with mental health right now, it's become a stigma. And there's these awareness days that are popping up more than ever right now. And with mental health, I keep feeling that, don't get me wrong, it's good to talk about it. It's good to talk about your problems more than holding it in.
Yeah.
As someone who's been there myself, I believe that more than ever, and I can vouch for that. But people saying that I had a bad day today because my Audi crashed and I can't watch my Netflix because my subscription cancelled, #mental health, that's not problems. And I've seen tweets like that.
Oh my god, that is terrible.
So, hundreds.
That is really, really bad.
So,
I can't believe people do that though.
Oh, there is. And
Really?
that's my job. I look through and I see it, and I see the connections because I watch human behaviour. I see connections of people that are hopping on this stigma because obviously now the royal family are getting involved and big celebrities are getting involved, and when the average day person sees that, they think, oh, well, I need to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because they see that and they think, well, no, you don't. Just get on with your normal day life.
Yeah.
If they're doing it, well, I need to do it.
Yeah.
If you don't know anything about it. You could just go to work and just shut up.
Shut up and go to work.
But everyone thinks they need to have an opinion, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same. I watch the news. I keep informed with everything going on. But I wouldn't talk about the Russians and Donald Trump and all that stuff because I would think I'm out of my depth.
Yeah.
I'm not educated. I don't know a thing.
But then, as you were saying before, this is the beauty of YouTube and being able to access like Twitter. We can have an opinion.
We can, but it's
do
whether
you want
we
to?
should.
You might be saying the wrong thing.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and that's where people. It's the smart move of whether you want to look a fool or whether you want to look intelligent, because that's where people, and when it comes down to personal branding and whether you can make something, you can really, really do well.
Yeah.
And make good content without having to do a lot of work. Like here today, this podcast. We're not doing a lot. We're not working hard. We're
having the world right now, you know.
We're just having a conversation, aren't we?
Yeah.
But we're not working hard. We're just having a conversation. Yeah, a lot of people do.
Well, I hope people do. I hope they do care. Like
loads of
about
people do, because
some people think.
And I think this is a big thing right now. So many people. Everyone's suffered with it because you wouldn't be human if you didn't. Insecurities, you know, real deep things. And I think I've had direct messages on Instagram from people who and this is part of what I do. So my part of what I do goes far out from YouTube and from face-to-face coffees, and it also goes online. You know, people who they see my stuff and then they chat to me and they have real insecurities about whether it's their parents or whether they're, oh, I only got 100 likes on my Instagram post. Well, maybe you should stop posting stuff of
pictures of your food.
You know, you in a bikini or whatever, and you might, you know, post something real. You know, we're really messed up, and we are, because we're chasing this fake
concept.
Yeah, exactly. Concept. We're chasing this fake concept of what we think happiness is.
Yeah. So, you know, I was telling you about that graduation. Following on from there, they had another event that I was invited to, which was about influencing for social good.
Oh yeah.
So was it social media influencing for good?
I'm with you.
Something along those lines. And I went along to this, and it was really interesting.
Yeah.
Because you know we talk about followers. Yeah. Right. And this is something that it kind of takes you a little bit out of the box.
Sure.
So I was quite I was quite intrigued by what they were saying. It's very true. So they were saying things along the lines of, you've got Instagram, mm-hmm. and then you've got your followers, yeah, and you are the person that all these people are following, and then because people interact with you on that platform. So if somebody sees your I don't know, if they say like, oh, Sarah, you're wearing a nice sari, that means that they feel on a level to interact with somebody who is an influencer. Yeah. Which means they're actually an influencer themselves, because their opinion matters. Yeah. Right, and then all of a sudden, if they say that colour doesn't suit you, or if they say something to you that might have a negative tone on it, then actually we, as the influencer, turn around and look back and think, I'm not going to post that again. Right, or we'll alter the way we think. So in that case, who's the real influencer?
It's so...
Because without your followers, you aren't actually anything.
And this is the problem. This is why Instagram has gone to lengths to hide the likes now on Instagram in the US and Australia, and it will eventually be everywhere. So they're hiding the likes thing because people were relying too much on the like. Yeah, because it actually research showed that you get a dopamine hit in your brain when you get the likes. Because
I think I experience that sometimes.
It's like it's real. It's real science. You get a dopamine hit, and just like anything, whether it's caffeine shot in coffee or whatever. And that's probably why I'm drinking this.
No, I think that's true. I think there different people get excited over different things. For me, it's like if I don't know, if somebody sends me a link and there's like a magazine that's written about me or something, and I think like, wow, there are different things will trigger different parts of your of your brain and how you're feeling. So if, for example, we're doing this podcast and like people really really like it and loads of people are like, you know, it goes viral or something like that, we'd be both like, oh, that's cool. We'd be really, really feeling good about it. And we'd be doing it more. We'd take advantage of that and promote it more because we just can't get enough of that feeling. That feeling is what is making the world move.
But to go back to the followers side of things,
yeah,
I think the problem with that is that links in with now everyone has an opinion. So everyone, whether they're on Instagram or Twitter, the power of social media has almost become too much. And even by having an account and following someone, we're seeing. So what I do, I'm an observationist.
Yeah.
So I get all of my ideas for this podcast, the previous videos. I don't watch any of my other content. I won't watch this back. So I watch a lot of other stuff, and then I get ideas for mine.
Yeah.
So I watch a lot of TV, video, film, content, YouTube, things like that, and then I talk about it.
Talk about it, yeah.
Exactly. So what a lot of people are doing now, even in real journalism and news, I'm shocked by it. I don't think journalism even exists anymore.
Yeah.
It's just having opinions, and it's lots of it.
Right? Lots of people.
It's just lots of
different people's opinions.
And it's crazy. You scroll through Twitter, you scroll through Instagram, and just by having even a keyboard, warrior on Twitter, you can be a health specialist, you can be a doctor, you can have an opinion on all the topics.
Yeah.
Because you have an account on something. And that makes you an expert, apparently.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. Everyone thinks they're an expert on everything.
Because they're being told.
Because they have
because they're interacting.
Because they have access. So just by having access to someone, by replying, all the celebrities, the politics, whatever, you have access to reply, and that means you're an expert. So I could reply to Donald Trump, I could reply to Prime Minister, and that means I know politics.
Yeah.
I don't know a thing about politics.
Yeah, there are different ways that you get seen to be an expert. For me, it's diversity.
It's just like food. I wouldn't know where to begin about food with you.
But then, with the food thing, that's something that I've built. But with diversity, it's something that I just happen to be born into. I just happen to be born into, into an Asian family. I happen to be an Asian woman. I happen to be a mum. And it ticks boxes.
Yeah.
And
but you stay where you are, right? You stay where you are educated.
The best way that I find to work is, if you're being recognised for something, whether you like it or you don't like it, you can just make the most of that.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what I do.
And you know where to.
So I don't really care when people go like, "Oh, you fit in this BAME category very well," right? Or you're brilliant for us. We need you because you tick all the boxes for us for diversity. That could be seen to some people as what an insult, right? And on the other hand, you can turn around and go, "I'm going to just use that as much as I can." It's just how you look at it as well. It's how you interpret whatever's given to you. If you take anything that is given to you, I mean, it's just what I was saying earlier. There are, it's kind of like how we look at things and how we want to use it. If we want to have a negative tone on it and make it like, well, we're a bit disappointed about this, or we could say, well, how can I use this to my advantage and take it further? Yeah. That's one of the things that I think has worked tremendously well for me. A few years ago, I would say I didn't look at the world in the way that I do now.
You mean positively?
Yeah, I think now I'm really, really. I just see everything as a positive now.
Yeah.
Every single little thing that happens. Like sometimes we're waiting in a traffic jam. I reckon most people's one of the worst things is just sitting there in traffic. It's got to be the worst. But then I do think there's an accident up ahead, and if I was a few minutes earlier, I might have been the one in the accident.
Being humble, just be thinking about the bigger picture.
And grateful for a lot of things because they're right in front of our eyes. We can, I remember us driving not too long ago, a few months ago with my dad. We were going to Birmingham, and I remember very, very clearly that the guy in front of me was driving a bit odd, and all of a sudden, he was in the middle lane, I was in the fast lane, and all of a sudden he just came over to the middle lane, and he kind of lost control. And he went over onto the hedge bit, and the car, he was in a big car, and it kind of just flipped him slightly back onto the road. So the car didn't flip over, but we were on the fast lane of a motorway, and anything could have happened right there, literally in front of me, right? And I saw that, and I was like, oh my God, like that was so close. And you know, you could see him looking in the mirror and I was like, bloody psycho, you know. But it was that second, it's like a millisecond, just 1 second of not concentrating.
I know what you mean.
Tomorrow I'll be doing a launch for a place, a kind of workspace in London, in Battersea.
Okay.
And I'm a speaker there. And I love speaking.
I was gonna ask about that, public speaking, yeah.
I can't think of anything better than like speaking and getting paid for it. I don't know if anyone can find something better than that.
I haven't done that
Maybe
yet.
not speaking and getting paid.
Just
shut up and we'll pay you.
I'd love to try it, but I mean, how did you get into the whole public speaking thing?
I was approached 2 years ago by somebody who I work with them now as well, in a lot more sort of bigger way.
Okay.
Where we do events and stuff together. But they approached me because they do business breakfast type networking events, and they said, would I come along and be a speaker? And you know, you start off like with everything. You won't get paid for stuff.
Yeah.
You have to prove yourself before you get anything.
Sure.
But then you have to make sure that you are worth being paid, and you can't do that
Provide
by
value.
asking. Yeah, you have to make sure that you're not really asking for that. That people will not even expect you to do something for free. You have to get to that level. And getting to that level is very, very difficult in a world where everybody wants everything for free.
Yeah.
Everybody's in the same situation. Everybody's got a mortgage, or they've got rent to pay, or they've got something. So everybody wants something.
And you didn't mind that? It's you know,
for
you
the
were
first
okay
year,
with
I
working
decided.
for free?
Well, in that first year, for me that was fun.
Yeah.
So somebody says, "Can you come and speak at our event?" I was like, "Yeah, I can
Cool.
do that." Yeah. So there are some things that you do. You have to be very clever with how you do it. So anybody who's considering, like, they want to be a public speaker or they want to do something, it sounds like you say people kind of jump the gun and think like, oh yeah, I could do that, and I could, but it's you have to know your area, you have to know your field of what you're talking about. So if you turn around and somebody said, look, we're looking for a speaker on epilepsy, you would be a perfect fit, because like you said yourself, there isn't many people like talking about it in that way. So then you would need to find yourself and angle yourself in that way, because you need to find your niche.
Yeah.
Right? And niche is one of those words that I really don't like using, because I always think like, really? You know, or is that something that somebody's like, yeah. And so, you know, they asked me to go and be a speaker, and I did this, you know, on the first time, and then I thought, oh, I quite liked that. I enjoyed that. And then people come and they talk to you and they tell you what they think of, you know, what you've said, and 99% of the time people will say, well, you know, we loved your talk, because people are nice. People are generally really, really nice. There's like probably 1% of people who are complete arseholes, but they speak straight, right? And that's the one you want to be listening for.
Yeah.
The one that you know, you could listen to all this lovely, rosy sort of feedback and say, oh wow, wonderful, I had a great time. Or you could listen to that 1% of people who tell you what you probably don't want to hear, but you really should know, because they're the ones who are not, they don't owe you anything, and they don't care what you think. They're the ones that you want to make sure that you've got them on side. So to get them on side, you need to up your game.